Good afternoon, good morning in some cases. Welcome to the webinar today. We're going to have a number of folks that probably link in as we're going through this. So welcome to those that are here at the front end. And I also know that we've got a number that aren't able to make it, but this is being recorded. Everybody's going to get it, even you folks that are online and listening now. So thank you for taking the time. But those of you that are listening in post, welcome to the session. And as you'll see, I'm happy to answer questions. I will leave my email at the end, and I would welcome any contact or questions of any kind. So we're really glad you joined us today. I've got a couple of people in the background. I've got Kit, who joins me in the session, and I've also got Christina Sagar, who is part of the program in the center that I'll introduce in a minute. But welcome and thank you to those folks helping me out with this as well. So again, we're going to be mindful and respectful of your time. We're going to leave this hopefully around 30 minutes. We'll leave time at the end for questions. Happy to answer any questions. Throw them into the Q&A, the chat. Today, we're talking about the Certificate in Professional Impact Analysis. What does that mean? What's it all about? I'm going to share that with you, and it's an exciting new program we've got here at Smith Queen's School of Business and part of the Queen's University team. So lots of information that I'm going to share with you. So thank you again for taking the time. So let's begin to acknowledge by acknowledging that Queen's University, Smith School of Business, our studio here in Kingston are all situated on traditional Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee territory. And there is also a significant Métis community, and there are First People from other nations across Turtle Island present today. We're grateful to be able to live, learn, and play on these lands. Excuse me for 1 second. I apologize, new phone. I'm setting it up. We're grateful to be able to live, learn, and play on these lands, as I mentioned, and I didn't want to interrupt this territory acknowledgement, so let me take a minute to reflect on that. So welcome to the Queen's School of Business here at Smith School of Business, and we're excited about this program. My name is Glenn Hollis. I am a former MBA director here, used to run the accelerated MBA. I'm now running the program that you're listening to today, the Certificate in Professional Impact Analysis, as part of the Center for Entrepreneurship, Innovation, and Social Impact. And for those of you that joined, I know we've got a number that have been alumni from Queen's in the past. You don't have to be. You don't need a degree. This is all about really adding to what you already have as information and knowledge, and adding to your credentials and your career as we think about the advancement opportunities. The center itself is run by, some of you know, Elspeth Murray. Dr. Murray is one of the professors of strategy here, and I'll introduce her shortly. So what's it all about? So great brands, think of those great companies, organizations, you're all part of them, I'm sure, have a sense of greater purpose. This idea of looking at more than just themselves, more than just the company or the organization, and it really is the environment, community, planet. Now, these leaders are also, as part of these great brands, thinking about where do we put investments, thinking with their head and their heart, and really looking at impact projects that I'll talk about. What does that mean? And this sense of doing good and all that means. So great brands command a higher value. They certainly have a more dedicated and productive workforce, loyal customers. Plain and simple, doing more good for an organization is successful. And the more good you can do, obviously that's good for the world. Many of the people that I've talked to that have been part of programs here at Queen's and other programs have this sense of wanting to make an impact, wanting to make a difference. And that's really what the thrust of this is, and why I'm excited to be a part of this program. So our mission here at the program itself is to enable leaders to measure good. What you can measure, you can move. The more good that we can measure, the more good that can be done. And it's as simple as that. And this program really is the only one that does that, the only program out there that measures good. There is a similar, although not as in-depth, program at Oxford University in the UK that looks at this idea of measuring impact. But this is really the only one. We've got economics professors. We add to that strategy professors from the business school. And it really gives a thorough understanding of how do you look at impact projects, whether those are on the not-for-profit or for-profit side. How do you measure them with evidence-based credentials and background and credibility? And how do you enable leaders to do more good? And that's really what this is about. So this is about evidence-based decision-making. Simple as that. We look for proof in terms of how we are moving the needle on impact projects, and then you can report those, talk about those, create stories around those, and validate why you are doing these impact projects. So let's step back for a minute and talk about what is good and these investments. There's two sides of the ledger, and this is the way that I want you to think about it. There's this idea of, and again, you know of these projects within corporate social responsibility or community and social projects. So think CIBC's Run for the Cure or Tim Hortons Children's Foundation, very much corporate social responsibility projects. Or think about the effort and projects, investments that governments lead or not government organizations. You think about projects where they are looking for the betterment of society, school feeding programs, how do we help the elderly, number of different things. So that's one side of the ledger. The other is, and this is why this program, we put it together, that crosses over and looks at business projects, for-profit business projects. And the projects that they invest in are increasingly getting more and more scrutiny in terms of, are they delivering both profitability for the company, but are we doing good? Are we doing well and doing good by them? So think of Ocean Steel, one of our alumni from the Accelerated MBA program. He is currently undertaking a program in green steel. His customers were asking for it. They've been in the steel business for a number of years, and Ocean Steel said, we can look at this idea of green steel, and I'll talk more about that in a minute. Warby Parker, the eyeglass company, give a pair, or buy a pair and give a pair. Suncor, other alumni from our organization, they looked at, as part of their Petro-Canada program, their retail partners, they said, we've got these for sale items with windshield washer fluid in big jugs of plastic. What if we had refill stations instead? Obviously, that is more profitable for them, yes, but what does that do as far as improving the world? And those are the kind of things that we look at measuring when we think of what this idea of good is and how do we measure impact projects. So the question really is, how do you measure them? How do you measure these good investments? And organizations are great at tracking a number of things. You know that because you're doing that right now. Customer satisfaction, productivity, financial performance, obviously. But how do you report on social, economic impacts with the same rigor and the same discipline? So the good news is we've got tools and templates and practices as part of this program that looks to measure that. What is the return on investment for impact and this quantifying the claims of impact? And how do we gauge that and use that in terms of doing more of it, stopping it, redirecting money and energy? And this is what we're really looking at, because there's more and more scrutiny in terms of how do you measure these things. We want to measure them because we're getting asked for it. So customers, employees, shareholders, influencers, government, suppliers, they're all asking for more and more measure of the impact projects that you work on at your organization, your company, your government side. And there's a massive and increasing demand by stakeholders to answer the question, are we actually moving the needle? Are we as an organization or society getting value out of where we place our limited dollars and limited energy as well? So we measure so we can do more good, and we measure so that we bring the company, the organization, beyond just the minimal compliance and look for a broader reporting impact. And leaders like you that are looking at education and programs that will train you and certify you as a professional analyst, that is the job of the future. As we've seen more and more organizations, whether it's government, for-profit, not-for-profit, organizations generally are getting more and more demand for measuring the good work they do, the impact projects that they conduct. I'll talk more about that in a minute. And again, throw any questions you've got in the Q&A in the talk session. So training leaders through this disciplined impact analysis and professional impact analyst program that we've got, 3 different levels, and I'll talk about it in more detail. 3 modules that we've put together. Impact foundations, defining impact for organizations, impact accounting, quantifying your footprint, and I'll talk about how you don't need to be an accountant. If you are an accountant, wonderful. This adds to your portfolio of knowledge, but you don't have to be math intensive to take part in this program. And the other module is something we call impact evaluating and learning, reporting, managing, adapting, and creating a narrative around the impact and the measure and the value of that impact. So in comparison, think about this in your organization now. You've got financial accounting. Everybody does in all different organizations. And you do that, you measure the financial side and management side of your activities, your energy. You're creating something, producing a good or service. You are providing a service as part of a government organization, or you're providing benefit to society as part of an NGO. So are we doing the right things? Are we making good decisions? How do we make better decisions with the energy and focus that we've got? And really, the other side of it is this idea of compliance and reporting. Could be a financial report, a report on activity that you've got as part of your company, your organization. So we put this program together to arm you for the same rigor on social impact efforts and management. Better reporting right alongside financial returns, because you're getting more and more demand for that, and better decisions that come out of that. And the Certificate in Professional Impact Analysis, it's put together to provide templates and tools and best practices for rigor and transparency around measuring the activity that you conduct on a social impact basis. So who can benefit from the CPIA, this program that we're talking about today? You can. So you have signed up and created some level of interest because this has some tentacle that touches your career or could touch your career as you think about a shift in terms of what you do. So leadership in choosing how to define impact, how to measure it, how to quantify it, how to report it, and change makers within organizations. And this is in all different disciplines, all different departments, not just the finance department in an organization, could be in corporate communications, marketing, production side of things, in the C-suite, could be throughout an organization generally. It's for the leaders of tomorrow. It's kind of the idea of, as Gretzky said, I'm going to play where the puck isn't. Knowing where the future is and preparing yourself with programs like this is really what we sought to put in place as we put the program together. So let me talk a little bit about content and delivery as we think about this program. So I mentioned 3 modules. They're all online, all recorded. And then at the end of each of the 4 lectures for each of the modules, so you've got 3 modules, 4 lectures. At the end of that is a live but virtual day where you gather together as part of a capstone session with the faculty, who I'll introduce in a minute, and coaches that are all part of this program. And you work through cases and form up teams virtually, and you do it from the convenience of your home. And then at the end of each module is an individual quiz. You're at home, at work, wherever you might be, taking the quiz. And it is based on all the lectures, all of the pre-reading, all of the material that you will get as part of this. And then each of those takes about 6 weeks to, at your leisure, your own schedule, to finish. The live capstone day we've got at the end of each of the modules, and then we've got 3 modules that make up the program. And at the end of the 3 modules, you've got a final certification exam. So these 3 modules, the capstones, the final certification exam, takes place over 6 months. So very much ample time that's afforded to this, and it fits the schedules and creates a sense of flexibility. So the faculty, I mentioned Dr. Elspeth Murray, who is part of the business school. We collected together experts from the economics department and the business school. We've got Dr. Bauman Kashi and Dr. Chris Cotton, who have been running a program like this for a number of years. And we brought it together and created a new program that is now part of the CPIA, this certification as a professional impact analyst. And again, wonderful faculty, deep knowledge, great cases, and great application for this. So the cost of the program is $2,500 plus tax per module, total of $7,500. And again, very modest in terms of how we've priced this intentionally, so it's very accessible. There's a tax credit that's provided to you, a T2202. It is all tax deductible. And in many cases, we found people put this into training sessions or use it as part of their personal training budget. This includes all three modules, 3 full-day live sessions, the capstones I mentioned, team coaching, pre-read material, weekly access to the faculty as well. So you've got coffee chats that are set up and designed. If there's any questions or discussion around any of the content or the cases. And then you are certified, accreditation from Queen's University and the Smith School of Business as a certified professional impact analyst. So we have designed it so that you can spread out these payments over the 6 months as well. It's not all up front. You can do it on a per module basis. And that is designed so that it fits into some people's training budgets, as an example, as we've found. So very flexible, both the content and format of the program itself, as well as the payment of it. So let me talk a little bit about the 3 modules. The first one is Impact Foundations, as I mentioned. This is looking at gaining an overview of impact, including different dimensions of it, learning how to assess and define it. You know, what does it mean? How to create evidence regarding impact measurement. You're going to learn how to justify the need for rigorous impact analysis, identifying decisions, impacts of decisions on various drivers of well-being, and ultimately quantify and value impacts, gender, social inclusion, whatever the value of a particular activity is that you envision it. What is the proxy that you've got now? We want to feed more students. We want to create green steel. But what are the deep dimensions of understanding the impact of that, both from a financial standpoint, but critically from an environmental, or how does it impact and how does it make for a better world? The second module, 4 lectures, as I mentioned, identifies the certificate impact analysis and a toolbox to track, document, report. You're looking at cost benefits. You're looking at risks. How do we assess those? How do we conduct impact accounting? Again, this isn't an accounting course. And it's designed to look at, as I'll talk about, it's designed to look at evidence that you can use as measures. And how do we look at things like value for money or cost analysis, including cost benefit, cost effectiveness, cost efficiency, and using impact accounting to prioritize knowledge gaps? How do we use the knowledge that we glean from this to report how we're doing on a particular project? The third module, again, 4 lectures recorded, digestible over a 6-week period, looks at mastering impact evaluation, measuring and reporting impact, improving design and effectiveness of current and future activities. So it applies all of the tools and templates that you'll learn. Measuring what matters, evidence culture, creating this idea of generating evidence based on the impact projects that you conduct. It looks at really creating a story. You're a storyteller around the impact and the measure of that impact. And you do that in order to satisfy the increasing demand on, are we moving the needle? Are we creating good? Can we do more good? How do we create this idea of leading and influence? And we are really building leaders to help arm them and your organization in terms of looking at impact. So one of the questions we get is this a mathy program? And the answer is no, far from it. Classes are not about math, they're about ideas, knowing how to take things like the value, looking at how to take the data, social costs and benefits. How do you apply those? How do we estimate? It rewards ideas, not math. As Dr. Cotton says, at the end of the day, those who come in uncomfortable in economics and math will leave comfortable with looking at and thinking about numbers and analysis as it relates to measuring impact. Students are not expected to be math savvy. However, I mean, if you're an accountant, if you're a math whiz, whatever, you're going to come in and you're going to build on the expertise and knowledge that you have. So it's not lost. It's not too simple by any stretch. It is very much about looking at the evidence and rigor, this idea of measuring impact, and it rewards ideas, not necessarily math. And it's accessible, intentionally accessible. So let me talk a little bit about some of the impact cases to bring to light this idea of what is impact and what is this sense of good on both sides of the ledger. So here's an example we've used in the past. Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola, as a for-profit company, was looking at switching to what they called social plastic, this idea of recycled plastic from developing countries. So measures that you would look at obviously are, is it going to be beneficial to the company? Are we going to get value out of it? Are we going to make more money? That's the most basic of levels as a for-profit company that needs to satisfy shareholders and other stakeholders. But you can dig deeper, peel back the onion. Is it socially justifiable? Is it financially viable? Can we create scale around this and put it into all countries? So one example that Coca-Cola used, RBC, reporting on their social return on investment. Is it defensible methodology? Can we use these measures as proxies, or can we use them as actual evidence? And do we need additional data as we think about satisfying shareholders and stakeholders? Tourmaline oil, switching to natural gas-powered production machinery. So what's the impact on the greenhouse gas emissions, and what is the net financial and economic impact? So you can see both sides of the ledger. Are we doing well, and are we doing good? And those are critical to measure. World Health Organization, as part of the International Finance Corp as well, advocating for investments in food safety infrastructure. How do we measure improvements beyond just simply, are we getting food out to those that need it? Are we creating infrastructure that actually improves lives? What does it cost? What is the value of benefits from a health and a trade standpoint? So it really sets you up and teaches you to look at all different angles. Your CSI, evidence-based gurus looking into and peeling back the onion on what is this project and how do we measure it? You are forensic scientists as you're digging into this. So Tim Hortons Children's Foundation, I was part of Tim Hortons years ago. So the foundation looked at decision-making when it came to investing into another foundation camp. Should we invest in a camp? How do we draw more money to do that? Do we draw it from franchise rent, royalty advertising? Do we ask customers? Or trade-off analysis? Do we put more energy into something like community projects, Timbits Hockey, Smile Cookie? Should we invest money there or into another camp? How are we going to get the biggest bang for the buck when it comes to creating an environment where we are helping economically disadvantaged children, which is what the thrust of the foundation is. And the other way to look at it is from a corporate standpoint, which we did as well. So business operations in a number of different levels. One was selling fair trade coffee, or do we invest in proprietary coffee partnership program? And the answer is the latter. That's what we chose at Tim Hortons. And I worked on this project where we looked at fair trade and said, well, that's good if you're part of something. You pay, as do the farmers down in Brazil and other areas, you pay to be a part of this program, and the quality of coffee isn't necessarily assured. They pay to be able to sell their coffee to a set organization. Whereas a coffee partnership program that we created was actually looking to improve small shareholder farms, 1 to 3 hectares. We invested in quality of production, we invested in education, and we invested in tools and machinery and knowledge to help them become better farmers, create a better yield, create better coffee quality, which we guaranteed to buy. So those are the kind of things that you look at. Ocean Steel, as I mentioned, we've got alumni that's part of the MBA program. His customers were asking for green steel. They're interested in that. And the measure really will look at 2 sides of that ledger again. Is it good for business? Are we going to make profit from it? We're in a business. There's no shame in that. But are we also going to do good for the world? This low carbon footprint steel that we're creating through all the different elements of the production process and how we ship it and how we sell it. So it really is the job of the future. So who should attend the program? Well, leaders like yourself, leaders of tomorrow who want to make a difference. It really is becoming a new and burgeoning part of companies and organizations. And this is going to be of interest to leaders, managers all over the world that are looking at and involved in or touch in some way or want to touch this idea of impact projects. On both sides of the ledger, one side only, is it good for the company? Is it good for the organization? Is it good for the world? Now, again, this also looks at an opportunity to measure it in an evidence-based way. And there's a number of jobs. Already there's a VP of Chief Impact Officer and Chief Impact Officer at IBM. and many, many different organizations as well. That where we see this as a burgeoning part of companies and organizations. So lots of opportunity. As one of your other professors, Dr. Kashi, says, we now have access to long and evolving list of tools and frameworks. And that's how we built this 3-module program. The chief impact officer of tomorrow will need the foundation knowledge to choose the most relevant frameworks and methods to define, measure, monitor, evaluate, and report. How do they tell good stories? How do they create knowledge and share that with stakeholders? So that's why we put this program together. So we're at the end of it now. We're coming up to 30 minutes in. I welcome any questions. I see there's a couple in there already, but I would encourage you to go to the website, simply Google CPIA, Queen's University, Smith, and go to the website. It's in depth. It talks about the different modules. It talks about the background. It talks about the professors. And it really looks at and giving you a better understanding of how do you get involved. You can set up, you can actually apply to be part of the program. You can ask for more information. Or if you want to, feel free to reach out to me directly. There's my email, glenn.hollis with 2 N's, HOLLIS, at Queens with an S, U.ca. Look at the program and think about the future of where organizations are headed, where your organization is headed. I'm glad that I've talked to a number. We've already started to build the class for January. I'm excited about that. It's going to be a great class. We're going to have this very flexible approach to it. We're going to have the opportunity to network and build teams at each of the capstones. But again, really appreciate you being a part of this webinar, and I'll answer some questions as we're going through this. So let me go to the Q&A if I can. Bear with me for 1 second. I'll leave that up there as well, and I'll get to the Q&A. Okay, are there a minimum requirements for admittance to this program? No, you don't need any prerequisites to get into this program. I think you can see, we created this intentionally very widely applicable. It's a great program. It is 3 business school courses, the 3 modules, 4 sessions each, and the capstone, total of 60 hours. So again, no requirements are needed for this. As I mentioned, I'll talk again about the math side of things, but you don't need to be a math whiz or an accounting, a CPA or CA. Now, if you are, this is going to add to and build on your credentials. But this is designed to be widely applicable and manageable around schedules and capabilities. Anthony, a lot of promotion around this looks to be impact for for-profit organizations. Is there a suitable program for not-for-profit, healthcare, arts, social sector, to whom the impact mission is the primary objective, and in many cases more important than achieving a surplus? Anthony, the answer is both. So let me explain that. This is very much the next version of the CPIA course. It has been running for 7 years. It started out with Dr. Kashi and Dr. Cotton as part of the economics program in the Masters of Public Administration and the not-for-profit and government space. And lots of cases that will come from there. But as Elspeth joined with Bauman and Chris, they talked about how do we know, or how can we, knowing that there's such a need for it in the for-profit space as well, how can we build a program that will be appealing and useful to both sides of our student base, those that are in the government, provincial, municipal, federal, the not-for-government space, World Health Organizations, Wood Green, and others, but also be applicable to the Ocean Steels, the Tim Hortons, the RBCs, the Tourmaline Oil, others, where they are doing corporate social responsibility as part of what they do as good corporate citizens, but they're also looking at production or services that they're producing that are going to have an impact on society, on the world, on their shareholders. So we built it intentionally to have cases from both sides, and it is applicable for both sides, and the certification is applicable for both sides. So really, see another question here. I'm sorry, I'm just going down there. So Anthony, hopefully that answers the question, but reach out to me. I'm happy to talk more about it and also introduce you to some of the background, and you'll learn. These professors are very adept at both sides of it. And with the introduction of Dr. Murray and guest speakers, we're going to have a great for-profit side as well. So does the course hours qualify for PD hours under the CPA program? No, not yet, although we are in discussions or will be in discussions with the CPA and other governing organizations, CMA, to be able to look at and have this applicable for that, Amanda. So absolutely, that's something that, now again, this would be valuable and useful for that. A little confused about the module of multiple choice to questions or fill out. So I think what you're asking, Celine, is, so the modules themselves have 4 lectures and a capstone, and each one of those will have a quiz. So after the 4 lectures in each of the modules, before you get to the capstone, there'll be a mini quiz. It's an at-home, open book, and it's based on the content of the lectures that you've already had the chance to view and can review again. And at the end, there's a certification exam. And again, that exam is based on all of the modules, all of the content, each of the quizzes, and it's a build-up to that certification. So it's not going to be anything that you wouldn't have already seen in the content, the lectures themselves. So hopefully that answers the question. And hopefully you're able to understand. Another question, again, somebody may have joined later. So is it math intensive? No. I'll go back to this slide here, where we intentionally have built this to be widely applicable to students in many different capabilities. But it is about using numbers and analysis and evidence to measure impact. So it rewards ideas, not math. And hopefully that makes it clear, as you're going through this. But again, wrapping up, feel free after this to reach out to me with any questions you may have. I'd welcome them. Thank you for your time. You'll get a recording of this, and really hope you join us in January. We're building a great class, and we'd love to have you. Thanks again, Kit. Thank you, and all the best to you out there, and stay safe.